Can a biological man become a biological woman? Can a man have a uterus, I guess?
The terminology is off.
Mm-hmm.
You're confusing biological sex with gender. Totally different things.
So you wouldn't say something like trans women could give birth or something like that?
No, but trans men can.
I think that society's definition of womanhood is evolving into something that can actually be understood and that should be understood as what womanhood is, as opposed to viewing it as a very strict sex-oriented, like, genital organ. Yeah, I don't think that it's like that at all. And I think that feminism that doesn't highlight intersectionality is basically white supremacy. So I think that that's just what it is.
Let's say somebody says, like, trans women aren't women because they don't menstruate or can't have kids. How would you, respond to something like that?
I would respond by saying that there are a lot of men that may have men parts that don't act like men.
Hey everybody, I am your host Elad. Today I'm reporting to you from New York City at a women's march. There are many feminists here protesting over Texas' new abortion ban. Let's go talk to some protesters, see what's going on. Excuse me, sir. Can I ask you about your sign?
Yeah, it's old school.
I know who you are, bro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about your sign, though?
What do you want to know?
So it says Kavanaugh.
It doesn't say Kavanaugh.
It says Kava rape.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about Kava rape?
What do you need to know?
Yeah, so...
You know as much as I do.
Sure. Do you think Kavanaugh raped somebody?
I think he raped several women. Yeah, of course.
As I understand, we went through this when he was a Supreme Court nominee.
Yeah, the FBI turned away 4,000 tips, and the hearing was a sham because it was run by the Republicans. I mean, let's go. How much do you want to go on?
What allegations do you think towards him were correct? Because there were many. I know Avenatti brought some
If you're in college and there's 4 or 5 of you and you're all drunk and you're standing in line and there's a girl in a room having sex with another guy, but there's a lineup and Kavanaugh's in it, what's he waiting for? Is he going to get his nails done?
Sure.
No, he's waiting to go in and rape a girl who's drunk.
As I understand, even at that party, people allege that this didn't happen. So what do you think about...
Me.
Oh, I apologize. So yeah, people allege that this didn't happen, even people
Well,
at the
of course they allege it didn't happen because the Republicans probably paid them to say that.
Okay, I see.
You know, it's bullshit.
Do you consider yourself a feminist?
Yes.
And what
Of
does that
course.
mean to be a feminist?
I think that women have the right to their own choice with their body, and men do not have the right to tell them they cannot have an abortion.
Absolutely.
They don't tell men to get a vasectomy. Women don't tell men to get a vasectomy or try to get that to be the law. Same thing.
Well, vasectomies are different than actual abortions, aren't they? Because
it's along the same lines. It's control over your body. Let's talk about that.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, do you think there should be any limits on abortion? Right now in Texas, they're doing 6
No,
weeks.
there shouldn't be,
Okay.
because the Bible, first of all, the Bible has no white people in it whatsoever. Secondly, the Bible should not be telling Congress and politicians what to do. Sadly, there's a lot of money in it, so they do.
The Bible aside, should there be any limit onto when a woman should get an abortion?
No.
I know after 20 weeks, an abortion
Yes,
is viable outside of the womb. Do you think at that point it's too late?
What if the woman's life is at risk and the husband and wife or just she has made the choice that she wants to live? It's her choice.
Now
You or me or anybody else did not get this, especially somebody with a dick.
Okay, yeah.
If you got a
you
dick,
don't know if I have a dick, so
well,
there you go. So let me ask you.
I don't think you have a vagina.
Let me ask you. So past 20 weeks, if a woman's life isn't a threat, do you think that it makes sense?
It's still their choice.
Okay.
Who are you and I to tell them what to do?
Okay, yeah.
We have no
absolutely,
right to tell a woman what to do with her body.
Absolutely.
Do you want a woman to tell you what to do with your body?
No.
Same thing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you. Why are you getting in the way of my camera and acting like you're not? Come on, big doofus. Why do you think Republicans hold this issue so dearly?
Because at the core, it's the evangelical dominionist base, and it's part of their plan to impose their version of Sharia law on the United States. They are dominionists. They believe that it's a theocracy. They say this is a Christian nation. Now forget whether their interpretation of Christianity has anything to do with what Christianity is really about, that's their interpretation, and that's what they want to impose. This is part of that effort, and it's got to be stopped.
What would you say to somebody who's against abortion, but thinks that it's not for religious reasons, that they think maybe there's too late of a time to get an abortion? Do you think this is a good comparison to compare masturbation to abortion?
Absolutely. Look, where is the line? Is it a sperm cell? Is it an egg? Is it when they get together? We are not making that decision for others. What Texas has done is try to make the decision for every woman. They don't have a uterus, they don't make a decision. It's her uterus or whoever's uterus, it's her decision. Forced womanhood, forced motherhood amounts to slavery, and that's what they're about.
I want to ask, because I see you're wearing the intersectional mask. I know there are people called trans, radical, exclusionary feminists who say trans women aren't real women. What do you think of that?
I think they're misguided. I think their fears are misplaced. I really don't understand where they're coming from, but you can talk to them and try to convince them that they've just got it wrong.
So can a biological man become a biological woman? Can a man have a uterus, I guess?
The terminology is off. Mm-hmm. You're confusing biological sex with gender. Totally different things.
So you wouldn't say something like trans women could give birth or something like that?
No, but trans men can.
Besides abortion, what is the biggest issue women are facing?
Political power. The fact that men, I'm a lawyer in my spare time. When I go to court, men try to talk over women lawyers. When Kamala Harris is in the vice presidency, men try to talk over Kamala Harris. It's not at my level, it's not at her, it's at every level. Men have to understand that they just aren't everything. It's equality. And if they don't get equality, we've got a problem.
You have a sign over here that says mandatory vasectomy, and this says, what do we want? Snip, snip, male hypocrisy, laws of my body. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here in the imagery and the sign?
Yeah, I just think if the laws passed in Texas where men are fighting, oh, laws off my body, you're going to make me wear a mask, but they're going to try to regulate someone's uterus, it's crazy hypocrisy. Yeah. If you're going to make laws on women's body about reproductive rights, why shouldn't we make them about male's body also? It would never happen. The hypocrisy is crazy, and we don't want laws on our body. And neither do men. Nobody should have reproductive laws on their body.
Yeah, and imagine if we were on the streets fighting, saying that all men should get a vasectomy. Men would be in a huge uproar. So it's also a little bit of humor because, you have to kind of laugh in the face of your rights being destroyed.
I know the Me Too has been a big deal, and we had Governor Cuomo just recently actually resign over stuff like this. So what do you think, even in New York, even our governor is still involved with this?
I think that I think men in positions of power should be very concerned because women are ready to fight for our rights and we're ready to expose the truth about things that have been happening. So
yeah, we're willing to vote against them if they don't support our rights.
Hey everybody, hope you're enjoying the video. If so, be sure to drop a like and sub. Enjoy the rest of the video, guys. Your sign says, this is my resting bitch face. This says, I know, I'm standing up for myself, I'm such a bitch. You both got the B's in there. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here and why the use?
I think that we're all out here for the same reason, for equality, for the first time ever, I think. We're hoping that we'll get there maybe this year.
Awesome. What about you?
Yeah, we're both in law school, so we are all for holding precedent, do not overturn Roe v. Wade, and women's equality is human rights equality. So
why do you think Republicans have been pushing for this for decades now? They've been trying to repeal Roe. What do Republicans see there?
I think that Republicans are afraid of sharing, really, at the core of it, and I think that I think that they fear if women continue to exercise their rights, they'll realize that they won't be in power for much longer.
Interesting. And what do you think?
I agree, yeah. We live in a patriarchal society, and I think that any chance that the Republicans have of diminishing minority and women's rights. They take that, and so this is why we're here.
I know a ton of women are facing a lot of issues. This is a big issue. But what's another top issue that women are concerned about that people should know?
Equal pay.
Yeah, I mean, equal pay. Also, I think that it's broader than just like I think that it's disruptive to use like the binary, you know what I mean? I don't think that we should be like creating an us versus them, like Republicans versus whoever. I think that the bipartisan government system just doesn't work as a whole, but I think that the importance is highlighting intersectionally marginalized communities, and that means women of color, queer women, trans women, black trans women. So it's just about uplifting those minority voices that have been silenced for far too long.
If I could follow up with you on the intersectionality point,
Sure.
I know something called trans exclusionary radical feminists reject like this notion of trans women. What would you say to them who would try to exclude them from something like the Women's March?
I think that if you're excluding people who are in need of help and who are fighting for the same rights as you are, then the crux of your movement is flawed. And if the premise of your work, your community work, isn't inclusivity, that means that in all of the sense of the word, then I just don't think that your community work is as good as it should be, I guess. Yeah. Not as communal.
Like some of them are saying like trans women don't have uteruses, and you know they're not actually. Do you reject all that stuff? And like I know the issue also bled into like trans women in women's sports. You're all for intersectionality and not concerned about any of those issues? I'm
not concerned about any of that because I think that society's definition of womanhood is evolving into something that can actually be understood and that should be understood as what womanhood is, as opposed to viewing it as a very strict sex-oriented, like, genital organ. Yeah, I don't think that it's like that at all. And I think that feminism that doesn't highlight intersectionality is basically white supremacy. So I think that that's just what it is.
We're out here today in New York City for the Women's March, but you guys are Moms Demand Action. Can you tell me a little bit more about your group and why you're out here today?
Well, we're a group that we're about gun violence prevention, but gun violence prevention is all about, a lot of times women are at higher risk for gun violence, so it's a women's issue. It's also Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and most women in this country are killed by guns.
Can I see your sign over here? This is America More Controlled, and it's a picture of a vagina and uterus, and then it's a firearm. Can you tell me more about how
first off, that's the vagina and that's the uterus.
Sure, okay.
And it's actually, just like a lot of signs, it's obviously meant to provoke thoughts, but it's not exact. Obviously there's no, one's a uterus and one's a firearm, just like you said. But it's just to point out how when it comes to certain rights, such as the right to own guns, a lot of people view that as an absolute right, whereas other rights that are constitutionally protected, such as voting rights and rights to abortion, a lot of people have a harder time accepting that those are rights that should be similarly constrained. I know a lot of people, when it comes to guns, feel that there should be no constraints at all. It should be, that's what constitutional carry means.
Can I ask you, so I know you mentioned a couple of issues, gun control, domestic violence. Some people say that more women should have guns to defend themselves against men, and that kind of acts as the equalizer. How would you respond to somebody who says something like that?
Statistics have shown repeatedly in scientific studies that having a gun in the house increases your risk for homicide as well as suicide.
Sure.
And actually, I know that a lot of people try to make it seem like we should be protecting ourselves against a stranger. We're much more likely to be killed and to be harmed by people near us. And so the whole idea about a stranger coming, so we should get a gun, that's not really the reality of what happens.
I saw a lot of imagery about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's been a feminist icon who unfortunately passed. Could you tell me a little bit more about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, what she means to the movement?
I think that she, throughout her career, it's not just that she became a feminist icon when she was on the Supreme Court. Throughout her career, she's worked on cases that helped women, such as getting equal pay, and so I think she's very important. Her feminism was something that she made sure was something that she always made sure was part of her identity, and we respect that.
She was replaced by a woman, but a woman who leans more pro-life than pro-choice.
So first off, that whole term about pro-life makes no sense to me. I don't see how you can say that I'm all for capital punishment, I'm for unlimited gun rights, and I don't know
all of
her.
Right.
but she's anti-choice. She's very anti-choice.
Yeah. What do you think of a woman now replacing RGB being so-called anti-choice?
I think, you know what? I don't agree with her, but she had a Republican president. Like, I don't think that every woman should have the exact same ideas as I do. Okay. But I think that, unfortunately, the Supreme Court has become a political weapon now, and we don't trust them anymore.
So, like, women who are against choice, they're not, like, bad women. They're still...
There's lots of issues with lots of people. I thought that the fact that she had her party during the height of the pandemic where everybody got she had a super spreader event, that was crazy.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know we ran on a lot of issues.
I thought you were going to be like one of those like right-wing people who's like one of those gotcha people. That's why I was like, who are you?
And I was scared you thought some of the questions were going to be there.
No. It's just, you've seen those before.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I didn't think any of the questions were too crazy.
No, they were fine.
Thank you so much for your time.
Take care.
Let's give you this backgrounder.
Awesome. So this is Physicians for a National Health Program.
Single payer, folks.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for speaking to me. Are you a physician?
Yes, my name is Dr. Steve Auerbach. I'm a retired pediatrician and public health doctor here in New York City. There's almost no legitimate reasons to not be vaccinated. Not medical, not religious. Major religious figures across the spectrum, including some who you might not think have supported universal getting vaccinated. The Vatican has a mandate requiring it of Vatican workers.
Can I ask you a follow-up? This will be my last question on these mandates. In New York City, people of color are vaccinated much less than people who aren't of color. The vaccination rate for people of color is something like close to 50% compared to around 70% for others.
It's about 15%.
Are you concerned about the disproportionate effect of this mandate? The Boston mayor said she didn't want to put a mandate in place because she was scared of this disproportionate effect. Do you have those concerns too?
Absolutely. And I've been working with something called the COVID-19 Working Group in New York City. We've been working on this since the beginning to make sure of equitable health care. We need to do a better job of working with communities of color, with local or already existing organizations in those communities. One of the problems that the current mayor has done is contracting out to for-profit firms a lot of the vaccination outreach. There are good, long-time professionals in the Department of Health who know how to do this better in terms of working with communities to assure, but they've been bypassed or stymied.
It's been over a year, and there's still this disparity, so it will exist. Yes.
Interestingly, the Asian community and the Hispanic community are roughly the same rates as the white community. African American community is still lower. And we need to do a better job of outreach.
Does it make the policy racist if it does disproportionately affect black people?
It is a perfect example of systemic racism.
Is it the mandates? Are the mandates racist because black people are disproportionately vaccinated?
I am still strongly in favor. It's not an either or.
Sure.
We need to do both. We need to do a better job of outreach, of buy-in for the black community. For COVID vaccination and all other healthcare access issues. There's massive medical apartheid in New York City.
You'd go as far to call it apartheid?
Absolutely. Massive medical apartheid in New York City following residential apartheid that we have. So the hospitals in poor neighborhoods are systematically underfunded.
Black women receive an unequal amount of abortions. They're like 5 times, something like that, more likely to get abortions here in New York City.
But but also less likely to get primary care before that.
Yes.
That's
and have education to know about contraceptives.
I will say the good news is that the new New York State Commissioner of Health, Mary Bassett, is an outstanding anti-racist healthcare advocate. And so there will be a far better leadership than there has been at the State Department of Health, and hopefully the State Department of Health and the City Department of Health, where, as I say, they're a strong, progressive, anti-racist, professional healthcare folks, full-time for years. They just haven't been in charge.
As a former physician, do you think we should bring more anti-racist ideology to the healthcare profession?
I don't consider it anti-ideology. I consider it factual. So, racism is part of the U.S. History and currency. It is part of the structure of everything we do in the United States. And so, yes, of course.
Hey everybody, thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. Let me know what you thought of the video down in the comments. If this is your first time here, guys, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, stay barely informed. Can I ask you guys what the biggest issue women are facing is? Just that one question. Biggest issue women are facing?
All of our rights being threatened.
What she said. No matter what skin tone, no matter what ethnicity, all of our rights.
Thank you guys. There's so many dick signs. Look, there's another dick sign. So many dick signs. There's another dick sign.